Good morning. It's Thursday morning. I'm Rabbi Ed Feinstein. This is Valley Beth Shalom live and online. And each morning at 8:45, we offer a few moments of Kavanah, of coffee and Kavanah. So bring your coffee and share with me a few thoughts. Today is Thursday, and it is the last day of the Omer, the 7 weeks that connect Passover to the holiday of Shavuot. And this evening we will begin Shavuot. It is a sweet little holiday. It has so little identity of its own. Even in the Torah, it's described as simply the day at the end of 7 weeks of counting, the day at the end of 7 weeks of a connection with Passover. And the connection is a very, very important one. The great philosopher Isaiah Berlin offered the idea that there's two kinds of freedom: freedom from and freedom to. Freedom from means the release of bondage, release of restraint. Freedom to is something much more difficult, much more sophisticated. Freedom to is that notion that we are, that we have the power to do something remarkable. We have the power to do something important. Freedom to means, here we go. Freedom to means the vision of what we can do with our freedom. You know this if you've ever had kids on a summer vacation. They wait for the end of school. They beg for the end of school. They can't wait to get out of school. And as soon as they have a day or two out of school, they come crawling to us and complaining, "Mom, Dad, I'm bored." They've been freed from, there's no homework, no assignments, nobody telling them what to do. But there's no vision of what to do with the time, of how to use the time, of how to make the time productive and stimulating and interesting. So freedom from is only half of the process. What we need is freedom to, positive freedom. Passover celebrates freedom from Pharaoh, freedom from slavery, freedom from the house of bondage, freedom to a vision of what we can be once we are free. That comes with Shavuot. One philosopher offered the idea that freedom is a kind of asset. It's a kind of resource. You don't have freedom. You invest freedom. You take freedom and you spend it on something. When we have time, we invest the time. When we have the possibility, resources, the leisure, we can invest it in something. If you've ever had an afternoon where you just loafed off for the afternoon, well, there's nothing wrong with that. Someone once said, better to have loafed and lost than never to have loafed at all. Nothing wrong with taking an afternoon once in a while to just relax and unwind. But if you have a sustained amount of time, you know that the better way to do it is to invest it in something. To read a good book, to learn a new skill, to find a new friend, to better yourself in some fashion. So Passover is one kind of freedom, and Shavuot offers the contrary kind of freedom, the complementary kind of freedom, rather. A complementary freedom, a freedom to become a sacred society, a freedom to become a just society, a freedom to become free people, a freedom to become people who are devoted and dedicated to something quite remarkable. That's where Shavuot comes. And in the Torah, it's offered as the day after the 7 weeks of counting. In the tradition, it became the day in which the Torah was given on Mount Sinai. So what we will be doing tomorrow in the morning is praying and offering a reading of the Revelation story and the 10 Commandments in the Torah. And because these holidays have a wonderful quality, we not only commemorate an event, we not only remember a moment in our history, we recreate it. On Passover, we eat what our ancestors ate. We sit at the Seder table the way they did their last day in Egypt, their last night in Egypt. On Sukkot, we build a sukkah as our ancestors did, and we live in it. We eat history, we live in history, we sleep in history. So what do we do on Shavuot? Well, if this is the holiday of the receiving of Torah, we're going to receive Torah. So tonight there is a Tikkun Leil Shavuot, an experience where we stay up all night long studying Torah, or For those of us a little weaker, we stay up quite late studying Torah. And one of the remarkable gifts, I hate to say it that way, but the remarkable gifts of this coronavirus crisis, because so much of Jewish life is now online, virtual, is you have a choice tonight of so many opportunities to learn with so many of the greatest Jewish teachers in all of America. If you just Google Tikkun Leil Shavuos 2020, you will see that there are 100 different Tikkun experiences being put up online tonight, and you can enjoy them. There is a beautiful one being put on by a group of artists. There's one put on by the sort of younger rabbis of the communities. We're going to be, Valley Beth Shalom, our community is going to be joining with a consortium of other rabbis and teachers and synagogues and communities here in Los Angeles. And I'll be teaching tonight about 10:30. I'm teaching about my favorite philosopher, Abraham Joshua Heschel. But you'll find 100 different sessions tonight, everything from how to make a low-cal cheesecake, as if, right, to every philosophical, Torah, Midrash, wonderful opportunities, plus a ton of music. So go online. I would recommend you go online. I'm going to do this tonight, and I'm going to browse. I think it's going to be wonderful to be able to listen to rabbis and teachers and darshanim and artists from across the country. Nina bought some cheesecake, so we're ready to go. That's also, by the way, the custom is you eat milchiks tonight. Don't ask me where that came from. There is one other custom that I'd like to call your attention to this morning. There is a custom of reading the book of Ruth. The book of Ruth is a tiny little book, 4 chapters long, at the very end of the Hebrew Bible. There are 5 short books at the end of the Hebrew Bible, and they're assigned to each holiday. The most famous one is the book of Esther, which is read on Purim. The book of Lamentation, Echa, is read on Tisha B'Av. It's a sad book. The book of Ecclesiastes is read on Sukkot. The book of Song of Songs, which is an erotic love poem, is read on Passover because it's the beginning of our love relationship with God. And the book of Ruth is read on Shavuot, because it happens during the barley harvest, and because it's all about a woman who comes from outside of our circle to receive Torah. And it is a remarkably beautiful book. I'm going to teach the book of Ruth tomorrow morning. That's Friday morning at 9 o'clock. I'm going to prepare a teaching, and at 9 o'clock there's going to be a special Shavuot Torah study on the book of Ruth, and you're all invited just to tune into VBS on Facebook Live or on YouTube and join me for that. But let me offer you simply one observation about the book of Ruth. There are 4 principal characters in the book, 2 men, 2 women. The 2 women, of course, are Naomi and Ruth, mother-in-law and daughter-in-law. Ruth, who comes from the country of Moab, is an outsider. And the story of the book is her journey from the outside in, from the periphery to the center, to the core, to the heart of Jewish life. Naomi is a woman who loses everything and then gains it all back. It's a redemption story for Naomi. The 2 men are minor characters in the book. It's refreshing, by the way, to have a book named for a woman and for whom women are the central characters, and men in this situation are only the side characters, the co-stars. And the 2 men in the story are Elimelech and Boaz, and they are cousins. Elimelech is Naomi's husband at the beginning of the story, and the story opens with the idea that Elimelech and Naomi lived in the town of Bethlehem, and there was a famine, which is ironic because Beit Lechem means a place of bread. And there's a famine, and Elimelech uproots his family and takes them to Moab. Now, Moab is the country, what we would call it Transjordan, which is next door. And he takes it there because he has economic opportunity. And the irony of that, of course, is that the entire Torah story, in fact, the whole tradition, is about coming home. The journey from Egypt to Canaan is the story of the Torah. The longing to return to Eretz Yisrael is part of our liturgy and part of our hearts and souls. The love we have for the land of Israel, the city of Jerusalem, the environs of our holy land is deeply ingrained in the Jewish people. And yet here is a man who faces an economic calamity, a famine, and he leaves. He picks up his family and he leaves. And Moab, by the way, in the mind of the Bible, is a place that Jews don't go. So to go to Moab is a strange thing to do. First of all, if there's famine in Israel, there's going to be famine in Moab. But more than that, it's just a place where Jews don't go. It's not a friendly place for Israelites. It's sort of like seeing a neighbor, and the neighbor says to you, I'm leaving, we're moving. And you say, my God, where are you going? And they say, well, we're going to go live in Saudi Arabia. So, oh, good, a Jewish family in Saudi Arabia. It's not like it's pasnished. It's not where you go. But he is the picture of the opportunist, the picture of the one who has no roots, the picture of the one who is not attached. He has no claim, no claim of covenant or family or community or tradition binds him. He is going to go where he wants to go and do what he wants to do and do wherever he sees an advantage for the moment. There's no sense in which he lives for anything bigger than himself at this moment and his particular simple material prosperity. And I'll tell you what happens. The Bible makes short shrift of him. He dies. And it's clear that that's the Bible's notion that you can't live without roots. You can't live without connection. You can't live without a deep sense of commitment. His counterpart, it's sort of his shadow, is a man named Boaz. And Boaz is the one who discovers Ruth and protects her. And in the end, it has a happy ending, I'll tell you that much. Boaz is the one who stayed. They're cousins. They live near each other. They share a homestead. They share a farm. Boaz is the one who stays, and he employs his workers and protects his farm, even through the famine. Boaz is the one who remains in the land. Boaz is the one who is rooted. He feels committed. He feels connected. And even though that demands a great deal of sacrifice in moments of famine, there really is nothing to eat, and you have to ride it out. There is some reward, and that's what the Bible is going to tell us, to a person who is rooted and who stays. Now, the names in the story mean a lot. Eli Melech means my God is king. And that bespeaks his opportunism, his sense in which I'll call my own shots. I'm not claimed by anything bigger than myself. But Boaz is two words. It's Bo'oz. In him, there is strength. In him, there is power. It's the power of a man who knows where he belongs in the world and knows that he is committed, and that this is the section of the world that he's been assigned to protect and to upgrade and to enlighten. This is where he belongs. The other meaning of the word Boaz, if you take the Hebrew letter Bet Ayin Zayin, Boaz, which is how you spell Boaz, it's actually a scramble of the word Azav, which means to depart, to leave, to split, to exit. He is the opposite of the man who exits. He's the man who stays. Now, as I meditate on these two ideas, I think about a couple that I love very much who passed away these last weeks, not of COVID, but of other things. Jerry and Sonny were married for 72 years, and they had a very sweet symbiosis. He was a crusty guy, except that we knew he had a heart of gold, and she had a sweet sense of humor. And they loved each other with such passion and such joy. And I was fortunate to be able to stand at their gravesides and say the prayers for their family, because I did enjoy them and love them and learn so much from them. There is a kind of love that comes when we first fall passionately for each other. It's the kind of love celebrated in songs and movies and television. It's the passion of the honeymoon, the passion of the first date. It's love at first sight. It's some enchanted evening you will find a stranger. Somebody's got to write a song about two people who love each other for 72 years. It's a different kind of love. It's a love of commitment, a love of patience, a love of understanding, a love that grows deeper and deeper and deeper with time. It's the love that Boaz shows us. There's nothing wrong, of course, with falling passionately in love with the girl or boy of your dreams, and nothing wrong with that at all. Of course, it's part of being young. It's part of growing up. It's part of the world. But there's a different kind of love. Boaz's kind of love. The love that comes with saying, I'm rooted here. I feel committed. I feel claimed. And I feel that with together, I find strength in our bond, in our relationship. Boaz, man who is committed and rooted and says, I will fight for this place. I will fight for these people. I will protect this community that I care for, because from my connection and commitment, from that which claims me, I gain a sense of identity and dignity. The book of Ruth we read tomorrow morning. I'll be teaching it if you want to tune in tomorrow morning at 9 o'clock. I want to wish all of you a very, very happy and sweet Shavuot and a really sweet day. Be careful going outside. People are coming out now. Wear a mask, keep your distance, wash your hands, stay well, and enjoy a happy and a sweet and a healthy holiday.